So we talked about the action adventure games.
Yeah.
Now it's time to talk RTS games.
RTS, a little more familiar with the RTS.
So taking a look here, we had just a selection of PC and one random game thrown in there. It was StarCraft beat out Lost Planet, Company of Heroes beat out SimCity, and now we've got StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm versus Company of Heroes 2.
You got essentially the best-selling RTS
game.
games of all time versus the highest rated RTS game of all time.
And this is a ratings competition.
And this is unfortunately a ratings competition for StarCraft. But let's talk about it a little bit. You're a StarCraft fan through and through. Do you think that it can eclipse what could be a 90+ rated Company Heroes 2?
Okay, so here's the reason why I believe in StarCraft 2 and why I know it's going to get an excellent Metascore. It's because the team behind it has been able to balance competitive multiplayer and just make it such a perfect experience for players of all skill level. It really is the full package, and they just have a track record of just, making a fun and balanced and both simultaneously accessible and also competitive and deep multiplayer experience. And it's the type of thing that people make a part of their day, that they make a part of their life. That's why I called StarCraft 2 Game of the Decade, because I think it's going to be a game that people are playing for a decade, You just come home after work. I mean, I was playing Mass Effect 3, an excellent game that I loved, and all it made me want to do was play StarCraft 2.
But which one was more highly rated?
I put Mass Effect 3 down.
Which one was more highly rated, Matt?
Because StarCraft
Mass Effect
2...
3 was more highly rated because...
But StarCraft 2 is a game that gets its hooks in you, and it's a game that sticks around forever, and it's got limitless multiplayer, and it's just...
So
you can play it forever.
It's like when we talked about Company Heroes versus SimCity. It's like, if this were a sales competition, StarCraft 2, hands down. If it's number of hours played or impact on the industry, like StarCraft has all those things.
But
if it's, judging those, 6 hours or 8 hours that you're playing in this game when you open up the box,
the first few hours. Okay, so the competitive multiplayer is only part of it, and that's what brings you that engagement metric that's so important.
Because I think the multiplayer has been kind of expected from both things.
Yeah.
We know what StarCraft multiplayer is. It deserved the accolades and received that in a high rating for StarCraft 2 that came out. That's now kind of a known factor. Company Heroes had similar great multiplayer. That's kind of a known factor. So in my opinion, I think it's going to come down to the single player and how much these feel like evolutions in their kind of single player experience.
So the single player in StarCraft is going to be excellent. It's going to have that, that Wing Commander light RPG feel. It's going to be focused on a new faction, the Zerg, completely overhauled. But more importantly, they've got the Rockstar Cinematics team and storytelling team. These are guys that make cinematic trailers that can be compared to like Pixar shorts. There's nothing that no one can hold a candle up to the Blizzard Cinematics team, and their storytelling is excellent too, and it unravels over multiple missions, and they'll do the branching storyline where a mission will have choices that take you to other endings, so it'll have replayability.
It's awesome gameplay, no doubt.
But it's not just the gameplay. It's the gameplay plus the cinematics plus the light RPG wrapper and the way it all comes together, and the way that StarCraft 2 brilliantly transitions you from campaign to versus AI gameplay and into the ladders and starts you at the bottom of the ladders and you work your way up.
It's all brilliant.
It's brilliant.
I mean, it's great. And I think, in my opinion, one of the best RTS single-player campaigns of all time. The question, I think, is like, when you played Company Heroes, did you feel more emotion for playing one of those, like, I think it's like, is it the Karantan mission or something where it's the holdout against the bridges, like mission 3 or whatever? Like, did you feel more emotion in those battles with the music building up from like Jeremy Soule and like, you're holding out against just the onslaught from, the Nazi army, and like, are these guys going to make it? Honestly, I felt more emotion in those moments without any fancy cinematics or any fancy storytelling.
Yep.
Just because it just created something that was almost tangible versus all the production flair and everything that StarCraft provided. And I think that's why Company Heroes got that 96 Metacritic rating, because it tugged at your heartstrings.
Saving Private Ryan, the game.
Yeah, and like Band of Brothers, it made you feel something without all the glitz and glamour.
But that gets to a fundamental design decision, which is in StarCraft, it's really fun to have an army You are a commander, a war commander. The galaxy is at war. The stakes couldn't be higher, you know? And so it's really hard in StarCraft to get that empathy of a single unit. But they are addressing that because Kerrigan, the main character in Heart of the Swarm, is going to be a playable character. And I obviously haven't played any of the missions, so I don't know how they're going to handle this. But I see the possibility. I mean, when we left Kerrigan, she was in a very weakened state. We saw at the start of the trailer, you know, Rainer's holding her. I could see, you know, trying to rebuild Kerrigan, having her be a playable character. You know, maybe they'll have a holdout mission. Certainly they can do interesting things with gameplay and storytelling. It's not quite the same as that holdout feeling, but when I think about the great train heist level in StarCraft, that's like a unique twist on StarCraft's gameplay, where in that mission, you're not controlling an army. You're just a little group of rebels, and you're trying to stick it to the Dominion, stick it to the man, and you want to stop these little trains, and you're just racing around. And they were able to create a different emotion than like the glory of battle. I think StarCraft 2 is all about, you know, the glory of battle, whereas Company of Heroes is about, like, you know, the individual struggle or the platoon. You know, it's like one's the glory of war and one's the horror of war, I guess, in a way. So they have the opportunity to do it. They can create powerful emotional connections to the Kerrigan character if they choose to go down that route. But maybe that's not the story that StarCraft is trying to tell, because StarCraft is about big space battles, you know, and it's awesome for that reason.
So let's talk numbers. So let's assume, you know, StarCraft 2, great game, is like, I think, a 92, 93 at the end of the day. Do you think it's going to be higher than that? You think that Heart of the Swarm is going to come in at 94, 95?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be close, and I think and hope that they'll be able to maintain their edge.
Like 91?
You know, I'm thinking plus or minus 1, maybe plus or minus 2 Metascore points.
Let's say 91, 92.
Yep.
Maybe, you know, good, deliverable.
Yep.
Company Heroes.
All right, let's switch gears and talk Company of Heroes.
You got I think you got a 96, maybe 95 Metacritic for the first one.
But that was in a different era.
It was.
It did not get released in the same window as StarCraft 2, so it's not really an apples to apples.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, you know, the Essence engine that they used just blew the socks off everyone in the industry. And obviously it was such a new take on RTS from what we'd seen over the past years, with that really tactical kind of more zoomed in combat on kind of fewer units. And then the twist that put on the multiplayer, not obviously the same matchmaking and ladder system and all that Battle.net provided, but still really fun to play.
And that Battle.net experience wasn't in the original StarCraft. You know, that was a StarCraft 2 edition.
Yeah, which is, I mean, again, you know, why I think StarCraft 2 got such a high rating. And so, you know, is Company Heroes, let's say, are they also going to be plus or minus 1 or 2? You know, do we think they're going to be able to maintain the feeling that people got when playing the first one and deliver, you know, new content, better content, and maintain kind of those high 90s and be able to edge out StarCraft? Or do we think, you know, given all the drama that's happened with THQ and Relic kind of changing hands, and, you know, we've even heard, you know, from the team shifting a bit over the course of all this, do we think that they're going to be able to deliver this at the end of the day amidst all the turmoil that's happened around the company?
Let's talk about the THQ thing, because that weighs on you. I mean, we were at EA when the EA Los Angeles studio and the Command & Conquer team was going through some hard times.
Yeah.
And that is part of what produced Command & Conquer 4. I mean, there were a lot of factors that led to Command & Conquer 4.
We do a whole podcast on that.
One of the factors is that studio was going through turmoil.
Yeah,
and now, granted, this, you know, the THQ thing came down and Company of Heroes is about to launch just 2 months later. But that doesn't mean that it was only 2 months of turmoil. I mean, THQ was in a death spiral for a year or more.
Yeah.
And that's going to weigh on a development team, because they want to make this game great, and they want this game to be great partly because they think that they might be looking for jobs afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
So how does that stress play on you?
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of stress, and like you said, we've been through situations kind of like that. And you know, also over the past year at THQ, you had new management coming in. You had Danny Bilson for a long time, and then Jason Rubin came in, and there's always a chance that, you know, they have different you know, directions or visions for the games and might shift things. I don't know if that happened in this case. But yeah, I mean, when you
I'd be
have those
surprised if
shifts,
that did, but still.
yeah, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking on the team when new management comes in and you wonder if things are going to get shifted. And so,
Whereas with the StarCraft team,
it's
they're
been very
high on
consistent.
the success of Wings of Liberty, and they want Heart of the Swarm to be even better.
Yep. And so, Company Heroes, I think it could swing. I think it has a much bigger swing than what StarCraft has. I think 1 or 2 points is probably fairly accurate for StarCraft. Company Heroes could be a 10-point swing. If a lot of that got to them and some of the flair of kind of Company Heroes 1 has kind of evaporated. I think they did their Company Heroes Online, which kind of fell a bit flat. The expansion packs weren't amazing. So you could see where Company Heroes has lost some of the flair that they had.
Yep.
And it could end up being high 80s instead of kind of the high 90s, and now it's more of kind of a stable RTS franchise, similar to kind of where Command and Conquer was back in kind of the 2007 2008.
I don't remember what games were coming out when Company of Heroes came out, but I do know that when you look at the Metacritic score, it's uncommon that you will have more than one 96, 97 in like a 3 to 4 month window. But it's also uncommon that you'll go a year or 2 years without having at least one of those. So I'm hypothesizing that, the types of games that you're released against and the competition in the period in which you come out actually plays a factor in your Metascore.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Company Heroes, I think, came out in 2007-ish. We were, I think, developing CNC3 at the time. And when it came out, it blew our socks off, and we shat a brick because we're like, these guys are freaking awesome. They just totally flanked us on technology and on mission design and lots of stuff. And, we were really in envy of that game. And it came at a time when RTS was at kind of a lull. There were attempts with, Supreme Commander kind of tried to come out and did all right. You had some of the Total War games coming out, which rated high, but are obviously a very different type of RTS game. There wasn't really kind of the big kind of zoomed in RTS experience that was kind of the old school kind of Command and Conquer, StarCraft type of games. Yep. So it did come out at a time where I think people were itching for that, and they really grabbed onto that opportunity.
Whereas right now, not only is it coming out against a front-runner, heavy-hitter RTS with StarCraft, which, by the way, why are they releasing in March against StarCraft?
Well,
anyway,
we're going to have that conversation at some point about...
We'll figure that out. But they're not only going up against StarCraft, because like you said before, people who love RTS games don't only play RTS games. I mean, Company of Heroes guys are going to want to check out BioShock and Tomb Raider.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think...
And same with the critics.
I think sales-wise, it's going to be...
But the critics as well.
It's
the critics are going to be comparing the storytelling and the emotional connection that you're getting with the single unit or band of units in Company of Heroes. They're going to compare that with what they're trying to do in Tomb Raider, where you've got this weakened Lara Croft. There's going to be analogs there, and it's going to say, is the Company of Heroes story better than the Tomb Raider story in creating these emotional moments? Mm-hmm. Maybe it is, but if the Tomb Raider story is an 88, does that make the Company of Heroes story a 96? I don't know. Maybe it's only lands in the 90, 91 range.
Yep.
Or maybe because of the turmoil at THQ and the pressure on them going through these development cycles, they miss a mark on a couple of key systems, and then it comes out that they, release something. I hope that they don't do this, and I don't think that they will, but what if they release something with, bad mission design or poor balance or a poor multiplayer experience, server issues on day one.
Yeah.
Blizzard has incredible server technology that they've learned with WoW and StarCraft and their matchmaking. Blizzard's not going to have day one issues with StarCraft.
Area 37.
Okay. Fair enough.
I was there, Matt, hitting refresh at 12 like 12:30,
your purple
1
heart
p.m.
from Diablo.
1 a.m.
Wounded
1:30,
in the Torah
and like
duty.
2:30 I got in. I was so happy.
Yeah, okay. Point taken. But I'm just saying,
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, we had
when it came out.
We had terrible launch issues on CNC3. So
the timeline when Company of Heroes came out versus now, the current landscape. Does lightning strike twice? And plus, sequels are never rated as highly as the games. BioShock 2, Uncharted 2 is an exception. There are some exceptions, but I don't know. I'm nervous about it compared to Heart of the Swarm.
Well, I picked the BioShock Tomb Raider one first, so I'm going to let you vote first on the StarCraft Company Heroes debate.
Okay, well, let's weigh it out here a little bit. So, competitive multiplayer, I've got to give it to StarCraft.
Yep, gotta give it to
When it comes to
StarCraft.
matchmaking, servers, accessibility, ranking and ladders, all that stuff. Storytelling, I think, it's a split. If you're looking for a epic space battle, you want Star Trek or Mass Effect or whatever, then you're gonna just eat up the StarCraft story. If you want the individual experience, the Band of Brothers.
I think if you want the fiction of
Heroes.
being, a military commander, like if you're a Total War fan, if you like, those type of games, tactics games, then yeah, I think Company Heroes is right up your alley.
Well, so I would say if you want to be like a platoon leader, then Company of Heroes is right up your alley. But if you want to be a 4-star general, then you want to be playing StarCraft. Because in StarCraft,
Maybe.
I don't know, when the general deploys all these troops, to siege the beachhead, does he know each one of their names? He's just sending out an army, It's like StarCraft creates this feeling of this epic battle, intergalactic war, high stakes, and you're sending everything you got at it. Company of Heroes, it's like, you feel guilty when you send a gunner out to die against all odds, like they create that personal attachment.
That's what the general has to feel.
No, I don't think so. I think if you want to be the commander in chief, then you want to be playing StarCraft. If you want to be the platoon leader or even like the field lieutenant, then you want to be playing Company of Heroes.
Oh, we can debate on that. No, we'll see.
So the scale issue, we're split. You think the small scale is going to win. I think the big scale is going to win.
Okay.
The storytelling, again, it's similar. I think even if you prefer the small scale storytelling, you got to give it to Blizzard for their cinematics team, for their ability to tell the story. I think the story's going to win out in StarCraft.
Okay.
When you take a look at the wrapper, the things that exist outside of the RTS gameplay, I think those light RPG elements that StarCraft adds in, they break up the missions nicely. You play some missions, you talk to some characters, you spend upgrades that have choice and influence. They've got a branching storyline where decisions you make in one level can have impact on other levels. I think the wrapper, the credits go to StarCraft as well. Music, I've always been a big fan of Blizzard compositions, so this is not an easy choice for me to make, but I will allow you to speak your point on the Company of Heroes music.
So, Company of Heroes, composed by Jeremy Soule, my favorite game composer of all time, and it just got me into it. It just got me feeling like I was
that's
part
of the reason why you had such an emotional connection.
Well, it's the entire package. I mean, again,
yeah.
it makes you feel like you're in Band of Brothers. It makes you feel like you're in Saving Private Ryan, and it does a lot for kind of my gameplay when I feel kind of the full picture of that. So for me, I don't know if actually Jeremy Soule is doing the soundtrack for Company Heroes 2. I certainly hope he is. If he is, I know the soundtrack's going to be amazing.
Okay, so I've listed a lot of points in favor of StarCraft 2 right now. What are some of the things I've missed for Company of Heroes?
I think technology. I think when you think about what can tactically happen on the battlefield,
that adds some extra depth.
Yeah, I would give it to Company Heroes. I mean, we've played StarCraft. For good design reason for that game, they don't really have destructible environments. They don't have kind of surprise moments where the environment can change and something you weren't expecting can now turn the tide of the war.
It's unlikely that in an individual skirmish in StarCraft, you can usually determine who's going to win a skirmish.
And also, I mean, you take a snapshot of the map after the first minute. You take a snapshot of the map after the 30th minute.
It's going to look similar.
And it's going to look exactly the same, even though there's been this huge battle that's happened.
Some crystals are missing.
Yeah, oh no. And so, but you look at Company Heroes, you're going to start with a village that has standing structures and roads and all this nice stuff. And by the end of that, after being shelled with artillery and bombing runs and tanks blowing up and driving off the road, it's going to look like a battle took place there. And it's going to feel like, even in those 30 minutes, you feel like you went through a journey and you feel like you went through a battle. So
that's really compelling.
The graphics in StarCraft are awesome. So graphics to graphics, I think, are similar, but I think the tech that the Essence engine with Company Heroes allows them to do and integrated with that gameplay stands out more for me as more unique than what is delivered in StarCraft.
Okay, these are all really compelling arguments, and I've heard everything you had to say. We listed off a whole bunch of points, but in the end, I think StarCraft has the most points.
You can write StarCraft on your chart.
I'm writing StarCraft.
I happen to have my own chart right here. And if I may borrow that pen,
wow.
I think I'm going to put Company Heroes.
So we were looking at 8 games, and we managed to rule on 5 matches in agreement.
I'll write BioShock here because we agreed on that. But
I'm going to give it the RTS throwdown
to Company Heroes. I owe it to those guys. I mean, they really were my favorite RTS of really the last decade. Inspired a lot of our thoughts making RTS games, and I feel for those guys. They've been through a lot, and I want them to deliver an awesome game.
Well,
I believe in them. I believe they can do it.
I mean, I'm going to play both of these games day one. I think if I have to decide which one I spend more time in, if they were releasing on the exact same day, I would fire up StarCraft first. I would fire up StarCraft first and dig into the campaign. Which would you fire up first?
I think I'd fire up Company Heroes because I think I could finish that and kind of go on that journey and then probably put it down. StarCraft is one of those games where you want to be able to kind of devote several weeks into it to both go through the campaign, which will probably take longer. There's probably going to be a lot more replayability in that game, so you might want to go back and replay the campaign on different difficulty, go after some of those achievements, and then really dig into the multiplayer and start going on that. Company Heroes feels more like a condensed package where I just want to feel awesome for those like 10 to 12 hours. That's kind of how I treated the first game. It was great. I played some multiplayer. And then StarCraft is one of the games, like you said, you might play for a decade. So I think I might want to focus on Company Heroes, feel that emotion, and then I'll move on to StarCraft, which will always be there. StarCraft will always be there.
Well,
go back anytime.
You can just download it.
Yeah, just go back anytime.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that takes us to the final showdown here. We're at BioShock versus StarCraft.
Wow. Well, we've talked about both these games throughout kind of the podcast. Talked about the pros of BioShock, pros of StarCraft.
I just want to point out that you let me slip that one in there and you didn't even have any comment.
Well,
BioShock versus StarCraft. Yeah, that is what it is.
I guess I was looking at your
BioShock versus StarCraft.
I mean, what do you want to go with?
Yeah,
we didn't really play.
All right, how about BioShock versus RTS? BioShock versus the best PC RTS.
Whichever one it is.
Whichever one it is. The best PC RTS offering versus BioShock Infinite.
Wow.
So BioShock Infinite, obviously, is a game that we're going to consume quickly. We're going to love it. We're going to love every second of it. And we're going to spend a weekend on it. And then it's probably going back in the game binder and, bust it out some other time. These RTS games, we love them.
They stay installed on your hard drive. You don't delete them.
You'll do LAN parties with them. You'll play online with your friends. You'll play online competitively. You'll replay the campaign for all the achievements. But we also have a bias towards RTS games because we worked on them for a long time.
We do.
But I will say that action adventure games are my favorite games. Like when I look at my favorite games of all time, they're all games that have action adventure or light RPG elements. I think about BioShock's on that list. The Uncharted games are on that list. Actually, last year's hit Dishonored, I think, is creeping up on that list. It's a game that I loved and also a game that feels very similar to BioShock.
Mm-hmm.
There are some RTS games on that list as well. StarCraft 2, the old Myth series.
Yeah, Myth was awesome.
I put Deus Ex on that list. But these are two genres that I love, so how can I choose? Is it an easy choice for you?
I don't think it's an easy choice. You almost kind of have to try and put your business hat on for a second. So, if you were working at one of these companies and you're trying to think about which one of these games is going to kind of get the highest, which one is going to be the game of your contender, and thinking about how the critics are actually going to rate it against kind of the feature sets and play a little bit of that marketing game about what are they going to like, what are they going to feel is a little bit repetitive, a little bit kind of last year. Just thinking about it from kind of that business marketing standpoint. I don't know which one do we think? was going to stand out. I think.
Okay, so Company of Heroes and StarCraft, whichever one you go with, they're not a game that's taking a lot of creative risks in as much as the mechanics are proven out from the previous games. The environments, we already know. They're excellent games, and more of a good thing is always something that I've appreciated and frequently something that critics reward.
Yep.
But BioShock has this really unique situation that we were discussing earlier where you've got all the great mechanics of BioShock 2, but it's almost like it's a new IP because it's in this new environment, new world. So I think that's going to be this mix that just makes it into a critical darling because it's pushing boundaries and it's stylized, which is something that critics really love. It's quote, taking risks, or it appears to be taking risks, even though under the hood it's really not. But it's also built on this foundation of excellent gameplay with the plasmids and the guns and the story and the twists and everything that's going to be coming into it. So I think BioShock Infinite is very uniquely suited to get an incredibly high Metascore.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I think in terms of like the numbers, as we talked about, StarCraft was 92, 93, Company Heroes was 95, 96. Second one, I would be surprised if it's that high. Probably also kind
especially
of
given the landscape.
Yeah, probably in the low 90s at probably the peak. And so let's say those are kind of predictable entries in kind of that range. I do think BioShock will be a critic's darling. People eat it up. They love Ken Levine.
And if they knock it out of the park,
and if they deliver on it, and they, if it's not buggy, if it runs a nice frame rate,
if it has an excellent twist,
yeah, it's got a great twist at the end, then I think that BioShock will probably edge out and be in kind of that 94, 95 range. I could see a lot of people just fanboy getting on that game, and so I think it has the higher potential to be up there. And there's no signs right now that point that they're gonna fumble on any of those topics. They've taken their time. They've delayed it a couple quarters, and so I could see BioShock really doing well. And it's from Take-Two in 2K, and we saw Borderlands last year. Shooter, Game of the Year for action game. I think that publisher is doing a great job right now of putting out,
curating, selecting great games, advising, and also staying out.
And
appropriate.
This is one of their precious kind of internal franchises, and I think that is going to they're going to take real good care of it. So
I mean, it's not a game that I'm going to play forever. StarCraft 2 is a game that I'm going to play forever.
No, it's going to be a binge game. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to stay up till 3 a.m. I'm going to play 7-8 hours the first night. Come back the next night, play my other 8 hours, finish it, feel awesome, talk about it at work, and I'm gonna put it on the shelf, and I'll probably never come back.
Yeah,
but it's gonna be great in that experience, and that's sometimes
and
just
that
what
weekend,
you want.
the weekend after that, and the one after that, we're gonna have our LAN parties. We're gonna be playing StarCraft.
Yep.
It's gonna take even longer to finish the StarCraft campaign.
Yep.
We're gonna have different experiences from it. I mean, StarCraft is a game with legs, and it's a franchise that I love. But I have to put on my critic's hat here because this is a Metacritic bracket, and I think BioShock's going to win it.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think BioShock's gonna take it for March Madness. I think it's probably going to come in at 94, 95, and I don't see any other games on this list right now being able to have kind of the wow factor to get higher than that.
Yeah.
And so
we're calling it.
BioShock.
BioShock wins the bracket. Why don't we end by rolling the trailer, Jim? It's been a real pleasure discussing this March Madness bracket.
It's a lot of fun. It's going to be a busy season. It's going to be a great gaming season.
I can't wait to play all these
Too many
games.
good games.
Yeah, too much of a good thing. All right, well, this is BioShock, our pick for March Madness winner. And next time we talk, we'll check it out and see which one.
Yeah, we're going to start. We'll start tracking the scores. We'll see how we did.
See if Company of Heroes beats out StarCraft.
Yeah, that's going to be.
Which it won't.
I think
which
it
might.
I think it might.
But it won't.
We should place a little wager on that. Yeah, but all right, we'll see.
Have you met my friend Andrew Jackson? I will wager a crisp new $20 bill. What do you say? Live in front of all 3 of our viewers. Will you do it?
Yes. Crisp and new.
All right, StarCraft. Anyways, so BioShock Infinite. Let's check out the trailer. Thanks for watching the podcast, and we'll catch you again next time.
Sounds good.
you can picture happy gatherings round the fireside long ago, and you think of tearful partings when they left you here below. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, by and by? Is a better home awaiting in the sky?